Gareth. How are you?
Yeah, morning, Amelia. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So, Class 170 units are in the business, is that correct?
Woohoo, they are.
So, tell us a bit more about the Class 170s. Where have they come from? Where are they going? And what are we doing with them?
Yeah, so as people will know, particularly the repeat listeners to the podcast, Class 170s have been part of our fleet since September.
Yep.
The initial five three-car 170s, which are owned by Evershot Rail, were subleased back to our colleagues in Scotland, where they operated prior to the EMR franchise commencing.
Mm-hmm.
And Scotland and ScotRail, our brother colleagues in ScotRail, have continued to put them to good use up there. However, there was always going to be the point where we needed to draw the 170s down to East Midlands Railway to support the introduction programmes, of course, that we have for those forming part of our final fleet.
Mm-hmm.
And the first two units became ours in March, and the remaining three are scheduled, and I'll caveat scheduled because there's all the moving parts around COVID and needs and things at the moment. They're scheduled to transfer later on in the summer. But the first two units moved down in March, so that's two three-car 170s. They were sent to Crofton in Wakefield, which is some people may know is a Bombardier operated depot, where they were due to be painted into our final livery. So these really exciting actually. These will be our the first of our final trains.
Put your teeth in,
you saw,
Gareth. First of all, final
I know.
fleet. Easy for you to say.
I know. So, the EMR franchise, it ultimately ends up operating 170s, 360s and the bi-modes.
Yeah.
We don't have bi-modes or 360s, but we do have 170s. And these two are the first of our final trains, and they are the first that will be put into the full EMR livery. And that painting is happening at the moment at Crofton.
Brilliant.
Which is really, really, really exciting. It was delayed a little bit, so they landed in Crofton around the time that lockdown was implemented, and immediately went into effectively quarantine because the activities that were required to paint them at that time didn't comply with the social distancing measures.
Yeah.
And the contractors that we were using spent a few weeks just stepping back from that and making sure that they could effectively redress their safe system of work before painting the units. They've now gone back into Crofton under a new safe system of work and commenced painting. The first of the units, which is 17416, has been painted and is in the process of being deckled and labelled at the moment, and is due to move to Eastcroft Depot in Nottingham on Thursday this week, fingers crossed. And the second unit is not that far behind.
And do we know what route it's going on if people want to spot it?
I don't at the moment, actually. So I did have a look on real-time trains yesterday to see what path it was taking, and I haven't had visibility of it yet. So we can certainly. I was going to say we can share that once we know, but I'm sure there'll be many other people keeping an eye on that. But it is due to land just after midday at Eastcroft on Thursday is the current plan,
Ooh,
as long as nothing changes. So yeah, really exciting.
We'll let our Railcam friends know, and I'm sure we'll see lots of pictures across the network. So I suppose it's worth saying that actually one of the key points is that our team have still delivered one of our key projects, even though we've had real challenges with the coronavirus crisis, which is quite impressive, really, isn't it?
It is. I think that's a really good point. Well made. The last 6-7 weeks now has been incredibly challenging for all of us at EMR, as it has for our colleagues across the railway and everybody else worldwide really. And priorities are quite rightly shifted onto supporting the government with management of the crisis, supporting key workers, and how we do all that whilst keeping our staff and our passengers safe with social distancing measures. And now it's absolutely the right thing to do, and the team have been doing a sterling job across the business in achieving that. But it's also quite nice, as you say, that in the background we've still got a bit of an eye on the fact that we have a franchise here, and we've got commitments that the franchise has to deliver. And some of these projects, whilst clearly they've been impacted by COVID and slowed down and home working, all these sorts of bits and pieces, are continuing to progress. And I think it's a really sort of good news story in amongst everything that's going on, that we will see the first of our first of our final purple trains landing on one of our maintenance depots is a massive milestone, and actually under normal circumstances something that we'd have made a really big song and dance about as a business. And clearly we can't do that as easily now as we would have liked to have done, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't celebrate it and recognise it.
Absolutely. And where will our Class 170s, which of our routes will they be serving? Is it the regional services that will benefit from the 170s?
It is. It's the regional services, and ultimately, if everything goes according to plan with all the cascades that we need to release all the 170s, they will be the only trains on our regional route. So all of our regional routes will be operated by Class 170s.
So it'll be purple, wall-to-wall purple.
Wall-to-wall purple, absolutely.
Awesome.
From Skegness to Matlock.
Nice. I could feel you going, where's our feelings reach there?
I was trying to think of what the extremities of the route will be, and of course, as it stands, unfortunately, it won't be Liverpool, because by the time we get the final 170s through, as it stands, the Liverpool to Nottingham portion of the franchise isn't within the scope.
Okay.
But sort of Norwich up to Skegness and Cleethorpes and all the way across to sort of Matlock and down to Crewe, we will continue to see or ultimately see 170s, purple 170s covering our regional routes.
Brilliant. Bit of team aubergine. One of the things I was going to ask you was around, so our exteriors will look great. What do the interiors look like? Because they are second-hand. Yeah, I suppose it is second-hand, isn't it? Rolling stock. Is there work that needs to be done inside the units to get that into our branding as well?
Yeah, so based on the franchise agreement and the Abellio bid proposals, there's quite a bit of work actually planned or proposed for the 170s, akin to what is being required for the 360s actually, and that is interior refurbishment, refresh of the toilets, and also installing quite a lot of systems. Mm-hmm. So things like CCTV, Wi-Fi, passenger information, passenger counting, etc. So those sorts of on-train systems, which actually will ultimately bring the 170s and the regional fleet up to a standard that we've only really ever provided on our intercity services historically. So having things like Wi-Fi on our regional services is a massive step change for our customers, and really exciting proposition for us as a business. So there's work ongoing at the moment. We're using a company in Derby called DG Designs, who are a industrial design company, to support us with developing effectively the design vision of what the interiors of the trains will look like. So that's very much about working closely with the marketing team and the branding teams to understand what our brand vision is, how we translate that into essentially sort of colours and finishes and materials, and how we then apply those colours, finishes, materials into the rolling stock design, both at an aspirational level to make it look really good and really fresh and really modern, but also at a level where we've got to then obviously go and then deliver the actual engineering of that solution within line with the budget that we've got available, and the maintaining the standards of compliance that we have to have with regards to things like fire performance, the materials, and all those sort of little bits and pieces. And all that work's ongoing at the moment to start to get those design visions so we can see what the interiors ultimately will look like for the 170s. So that's really exciting, and a really, really exciting piece of work.
Yeah.
Just to pick up on your point about the current condition, so they are, as you say, I think second hand is short-changing them actually. They're probably fourth or fifth hand, some of these.
I wasn't sure what the right term was. I don't want it to sound rubbish. They're still great units.
No, they are, and look, this is the rolling stock market in the UK. Trains have a 30-year or so shelf life, and as many people will know, there's a lot of rolling stock that goes on many years more than that. The interiors don't have a 30-year shelf life, so they do tend to go through refreshes and refurbishments periodically, particularly when franchises change. So whilst the rolling stock continues to move around, and actually what we do with the maintenance of the rolling stock is effectively try and make sure we maintain obviously the operating condition and standards, and make sure we're always putting them back to that really good almost as new is probably the wrong term, but you know what I mean by that. It's putting that to a really good operating condition, and the interiors actually is no different, and every now and again we have to replace and renew and refresh the components in there, and that's exactly what we're talking about doing here. But obviously putting an aubergine twist on it all,
Yeah.
In probably a slightly used, worn is probably a better term, slightly more worn.
What do you reckon? Pre-loved?
A pre-loved condition, but we'll obviously we'll pick them up. We'll do the deep cleans and make the best of them as we can in their current condition until such time as the refurbishments take place.
Excellent. And in terms of training our staff, because it is a new unit for us, is there a training plan underway, and will our staff get to get hands on with our units in the near future?
So training plans are being built up to, and they're at varying stages depending on the different functions. Clearly the implications of new rolling stock are quite significant, so we need to train our maintenance personnel in our depots, our operations personnel in our depots to move them around, our driver colleagues and our customer experience colleagues who have to learn how to operate the train, new door systems, new interface points, new systems on the train, how they have to make those work. And then, of course, you've got all the implications around all sort of station-based staff dealing with a unit that they may not be familiar with. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's an awful lot of work to do to train the staff on these. All of the plans are being looked at in light of COVID, and what we can and can't do, and how we can and can't do it, and when we do those activities. Mm-hmm. But I'm really looking forward to staff being able to get hands on these. And part of the reason that we brought these first two down is exactly that, to start so we can get them into the maintenance depots, and then we can ultimately then start the process of training our staff. So,
do we know when the first 170 will go into service? When it might be on our network?
So on plan, we were due to have some 170s in service by December, mm-hmm. and that would have been December timetable change. Now there's an awful lot of, as many people recognise, there's an awful lot of work going on in the background to understand the implications of the current COVID crisis and the reprioritisation of resources across the industry, and what the implications of that are on December 20. So we're still really keen as a team and as a business to get 170s ready and available to start using in regional diagrams as soon as we practically can do so. It's really difficult to commit to when that might be, just because of the current circumstances. But it was originally December, and obviously I think we'd love to, even if it wasn't the original quantity that we'd hoped to have, it would be great to suggest that we can still target trying to get some units available for the back end of the year.
Great stuff. So Gareth, one of the things that is on our mind, since we can't get these units to staff or staff to units because of the lockdown measures, is how we share what's happening on these units with staff. Have we got a view about how we might be doing that over the next few weeks? Yeah, so I'm really keen that this is our final fleet, and that's, I say our as in the broader EMR. These are our trains that we're going to own and operate and look after and care for. And whilst we can't get, as you say, staff to the trains at the moment, I think it's really, really nice for staff to be able to see this fleet and see what it looks like. So what we're going to try and do is pull together some sort of some images or a 3D walkthrough or a video or something that we can then share with staff, so they can see the outsides, but they can also actually see the insides, mm-hmm. do almost like a virtual walkthrough of the train. Just so people can see what's ours, really. Yeah, see what's going on.
Yeah, so that's coming. A plan around that's coming together in the background. I mean, again, with social distancing, it's not as easy as it would normally be to do that. We're trying to find what's the best middle ground we can get to, really, to sort of help get some information out to staff. So watch this space, but hopefully we'll get something out to people fairly shortly, so people can at least see, even if they can't touch and feel, what those units are like, and likewise, if we've got available some information around what how the design work's starting to show what we might have, mm-hmm. When the refurbs happened as well. If we've got some information around that, we'll start to get some of that out as well. Again, so people can see what's there now, and people can see what's coming.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think one of the other things that's playing on people's mind is, and you might not have much information to share on this at the moment, because as you said, there's lots going on. Some of our other fleet cascades, I suppose, will we be able to share information about those as and when it's known? Is that something that is in the pipeline that we can discuss?
Yes, so I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a case of sharing information as and when it's known. COVID's impacting us. It's impacting our sister operators where a lot of these cascades were coming from, and it's also obviously impacting some of the new build manufacturers who are building the new trains, which ultimately we rely on in order to drive the release of the units that are cascading into EMR. So what that actually looks like post-COVID is a real unknown at the moment, and quite a focus for the industry as well over the coming few weeks and months to look at how that falls back together. So absolutely we'll share that information as and when it becomes available. I thought it maybe was worth a nod to the other key sort of introduction cascade project that we've got going on at the moment, which is the Red HST project.
Yes. What's happening with the Red HSTs? We're a bit late on the Red HSTs. I heard they were coming in February.
Yes. Unfortunately, we can't entirely blame COVID for this one. So no. The Red HSTs have, I think, ultimately taken quite a lot more work to bring them up to a standard that EMI is prepared to accept before we put them into service. Mm-hmm. So there has been some delays to introducing them. That's absolutely not been helped by the COVID crisis and the reprioritisation of staff around that, but ultimately they've just taken more work than was ever envisaged. Having said that, we have had the first set, which is NL51 for those who've got the books out, which was actually sent on a test run. I think this has been fairly well shared around Twitter. That was out on a test run last Saturday.
Yeah.
And there was a few bits and pieces came out of that, which the team have been working through, but we are, fingers crossed, hoping to get it into a diagram service towards the back end of this week. So we'll hopefully start to see our first full Red HST set in passenger service over the coming few days, which should be, again, another really good achievement in amongst all the challenges we're having as a business and as an industry. Great to see some continued progress on some of these projects.
Yeah, absolutely. And a bit of a shout out to the team who have been working on that. Has that been up at our Leeds depot?
It has. So this has been very much Team Neville Hill who delivered this, and of course the business more broadly has supported, but the hub of the project has been very Neville Hill based, and no surprise in that really. If you know, when we won the franchise last year, I don't think at that time that we hadn't received the instruction that we had to undertake this. So this whole project has been an overlay on top of everything else that the franchise has had to do, and therefore Neville Hill have really had to step up and show their best in grabbing and owning this and delivering it, and they've done a sterling job, I have to say, with some of the engineering and technical challenges they've faced on introducing this fleet have been really difficult to overcome, but they've done a great job of doing that and working through it, and supporting the repairs and the maintenance of the fleet to get them into service. So really, really well worth a shout out to Team Neville Hill, as I say, who've really led this and owned this, and great for them, I think, to see this first set going to service.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for your time today, Gareth. Hopefully we'll catch up in a few weeks when some of this information might be a bit clearer to us, and keep yourself safe and stay indoors and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you too, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.